Hello, brothers, and welcome. Today we are going to analyze the congregation's Bible study together with you. October 13th to 19, 2025. Let's start by answering the questions from the paragraphs. What happened when the 12 spies came back from Canaan? When the 12 spies came back from Canaan, they gave two very different reports. All 12 agreed that the land was beautiful and full of good things, bringing back large clusters of grapes, pomegranates, and figs as proof. However, 10 of the spies focused on the dangers. They said the cities were strong, the walls were high, and the people were giants. Their negative report made the Israelites afraid and discouraged. Caleb and Joshua, on the other hand, trusted in Jehovah and encouraged the people to move forward, saying that with Jehovah's help, they could conquer the land. But the people refused to listen, complaining against Moses and even talking about going back to Egypt. Because of their lack of faith, Jehovah decided that only Joshua, Caleb, and the children of that generation would enter the promised land, while the rest would die in the wilderness after 40 years of wandering. Let's move on to the next question. How did Joshua and Caleb show that they trusted in Jehovah? Joshua and Caleb showed their trust in Jehovah by speaking up with faith and courage, even when everyone else was afraid. They had seen the same strong cities and powerful people as the other spies. But instead of focusing on the danger, they focused on Jehovah's power. Caleb said, "We can conquer them. Let's go right away," showing confidence that Jehovah would give them victory. Later, when the people began to complain and talk about going back to Egypt, Joshua and Caleb pleaded with them not to rebel against Jehovah and reminded them that he would protect them. Their faith stood out because they didn't let fear or the negative attitude of others weaken their confidence in Jehovah. As a result, Jehovah rewarded them for their loyalty. They were the only ones from their generation allowed to enter the promised land. Let's move on to the next question. What does this teach us about Jehovah? This account teaches us that Jehovah values faith, courage, and obedience, and that he rewards those who trust in him even when others do not. Jehovah noticed the difference between Joshua and Caleb and the rest of the spies. While most doubted, these two showed strong confidence in his power. This shows that Jehovah pays close attention to each person's attitude and loyalty. He doesn't bless fear or lack of faith, but he supports those who remain positive and obedient despite challenges. It also teaches us that Jehovah is patient and just. Although he punished the unfaithful Israelites, he still cared for their children and allowed Joshua and Caleb to enter the promised land. This reminds us that Jehovah always keeps his promises, that his judgments are fair, and that he rewards faithfulness in his own perfect time. Next question. What practical lessons can we learn? One practical lesson we can learn is the importance of maintaining faith and a positive attitude even when others around us are fearful or negative. Joshua and Caleb trusted Jehovah completely, while the rest of the spies focused on the problems. This shows that our faith should not depend on what others think or say, but on our confidence in Jehovah's power and promises. We also learn the value of courage. It takes courage to stand for what is right, especially when most people disagree. Like Joshua and Caleb, we can choose to speak and act with faith, knowing Jehovah supports those who stay loyal to him. Another lesson is that doubt and fear can cause us to lose blessings. The Israelites missed out on entering the promised land because they let fear guide their decisions. When we trust Jehovah, even in difficult circumstances, we keep ourselves in line to receive his blessings and protection. Now we move on to the analysis of Lesson 27. They rebelled against Jehovah. First question. Why did Korah and his supporters rebel against Moses? Korah and his supporters rebelled against Moses because they were motivated by pride, jealousy, and a desire for power. They claimed that Moses and Aaron were taking too much authority for themselves, arguing that everyone in the congregation was holy and that Jehovah was with all of them equally. Numbers 16:3. But their real motive wasn't equality, it was ambition. Korah, being a Levite, wanted the priestly position that Jehovah had given only to Aaron and his sons. Dathan, Abiram, and the 250 others also resented Moses' leadership and refused to recognize Jehovah's arrangement. Their attitude shows how pride can distort thinking and lead people to challenge those whom Jehovah has appointed. In reality, their rebellion was not just against Moses and Aaron, it was against Jehovah himself, because he was the one who had chosen and directed them. This reminds us that opposing the men Jehovah uses is, in fact, opposing Jehovah's authority. Next question. How do we know that Jehovah chose Aaron to be the high priest? We know that Jehovah chose Aaron to be the high priest because he confirmed it through a clear and miraculous sign. Jehovah told Moses to collect a staff from the leader of each tribe with the names written on them, and to place all the staffs inside the tabernacle. On the staff representing the tribe of Levi, Moses wrote Aaron's name. The next day, when Moses brought the staffs out, Aaron's staff had miraculously sprouted, blossomed, and produced ripe almonds. Numbers 17:1-8. This miracle left no doubt that Jehovah himself had chosen Aaron for the priesthood. It silenced the complaints of those who had questioned Jehovah's arrangement and showed that spiritual positions in his service are not gained by ambition or human choice, but by divine appointment. It also reminded the Israelites, and us today, that Jehovah supports those he selects to care for his people. Let's move on to the next question. What does this teach us about Jehovah? This teaches us that Jehovah is a God of order, justice, and fairness, who chooses and supports those who serve him faithfully. He made it clear that the priesthood was not a human decision, but a divine arrangement, showing that he alone has the right to assign responsibilities in his organization. Jehovah did not allow confusion or rebellion to continue. Instead, he acted decisively to protect the unity and purity of his people. At the same time, this account shows Jehovah's patience and mercy. He gave the Israelites a visible sign through Aaron's blossoming staff to help them understand his will and restore peace among them. It reminds us that Jehovah wants his people to recognize and respect the arrangements he has made and to trust that his choices are always wise and for our good. Next question. What practical lessons can we learn? One practical lesson we can learn is the importance of showing respect and loyalty to those whom Jehovah appoints to take the lead. Korah and his supporters allowed pride and jealousy to cloud their judgment, which led them to rebel against Jehovah's arrangement. Their example warns us against developing a critical or independent spirit toward those taking the lead in the congregation. When we cooperate and support them, we show respect for Jehovah, the one who appointed them. Another lesson is that Jehovah values humility. Instead of seeking recognition or authority, we should focus on serving faithfully wherever we are assigned, trusting that Jehovah sees and values our obedience. This account also teaches us to avoid being influenced by those who complain or stir up discontent. Staying loyal and submissive keeps the congregation peaceful and united, which pleases Jehovah and brings his blessing.